May we have a moment of silent prayer and meditation? May we be seated? Very naughty, eh? Minister, Deputy Minister, senior officials of the department, chairs and members of the boards of the entities reporting to communications, members of parliament, good morning. Good morning. How are you? Thank you very much. Would like to welcome in Parliament the guests of the Minister who are here. You are most welcome. You are now the guests of Parliament, no more of the Minister. Because of that, there are house rules that apply to you, which I trust you will respect. Minister or Deputy Minister or any member of Parliament may say something very exciting. You can't clap hands. You can only smile, nod your head, no using of hands as gestures. But if it's something that you don't like, no booing or screaming, no gestures by hands that show some negative. You can only frown, and that's it. But your rules are different than those of the members of the House. So don't be tempted when you see them at times having some sling match in between. That's mine to regulate. They've got a little bit of privilege, but they can't overdo it. We've got some rules that apply to that. Yours is just to watch them, make your own determination, but don't enter the fray. I hope we will support one another on that one. For members, the debate will be robust, I suppose, but respectful. And I trust you will honor that. So we're all ready for the debate. Secretary, can you read the order?
Debate on vote number 3, Communications Appropriation Bill.
Honorable the Minister, Honorable Dlodlo. The Minister, has been our Deputy Minister, but she's a brand new Minister of Communications, so this is a maiden speech. And you know what we do. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Good morning to everybody. The ministers who have come here to support, Portfolio Committee members, House Chair, Deputy Minister, my babies in the gallery, the chairs and acting chairs and acting whoever in this portfolio. All the actors and the non-actors in our portfolio. But believe me, the Deputy Minister and I are looking into the issue of filling in positions. I stand here today in front of this August House as a woman, a mother, a sister. The mere fact of my gender communicates messages to some that I may be raped, maimed, or killed. Notwithstanding many of the laws enacted, such as the Domestic Violence Act and the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2007, and the Protection from Harassment Act of 2011, many women in our country remain vulnerable and targeted. Many have died at the hands of people who professed to love them. Many of our women continue to be harassed, and some of our laws, in many instances, still treat perpetrators of these crimes leniently. Wasan Shire, a Kenyan-born Somali poet, when asked about how it feels to be a woman subjected to these forms of abuse, she wrote in a poem, and I read, "Later that night, I held an atlas on my lap, ran my fingers across the world, and whispered, 'Where does it hurt?' It answered, 'Everywhere, everywhere, and everywhere.'" We meet at a time when the social fabric of our society is severely tested. The recent spate of brutal attacks and murders of women and children has sent shockwaves throughout our society. However, we need to do more than just be outraged. The hurt and pain that we all rightly feel should be channeled into action that will protect the most vulnerable amongst us and instill a sense of heightened vigilance amongst women and civil society at large. We need to say enough is enough and act so that no woman or child ever again falls victim to abuse, rape, or murder. We must talk about why our men and boys are so violent. Where does it hurt with them? And what can we do together to deal with that? It is in our hands to become the change we want to be the country that not only theorizes about our commitment to non-sexism. I am heartened that a united civil front is emerging to deal with the many complex issues that drive child and women abuse. Many have said, not in our name, and we need to sustain that commitment and momentum. I can assure you, for its part, government will continue to lead the way, but ultimately we need society to stand together to fight this scourge. My department and its various entities will be at the forefront of this campaign by Brand South Africa to rally South Africans to protect our nation's women and children. Honorable Chairperson, fundamentals of a debate are interlinked to the political economy, the bread and butter issues, the essence and nerve center of service delivery. It impacts directly and indirectly to the quality of life of our society, our citizens, and ultimately ordinary men and women and children. With this powerful instrument called the budget, we seek to allocate the most valuable and scarce resource of a country to the ever-changing demands and needs of our people. The DOC plays a pivotal part in that sector that has asserted itself in the modern day as a game changer that is fundamentally transforming human life. There can't be a dispute that information and communication technology has become a lifeline service that changes people's lives. This is succinctly articulated by German engineer and economist Klaus Schwab when he said, "This time is different." He asserts that, simply put, major technological innovations are at the brink of fueling momentous change throughout the world, inevitably so. We are at the beginning of a revolution that is fundamentally changing the way we live, the way we work, and relate to one another. In its scale, scope, and complexity, what I consider to be the fourth industrial revolution is like anything humankind can experience before, has never experienced before. South Africa as a country has a choice either to be a significant player in the global technological development or be the recipient and consumer who tails behind innovation. It might be too late to position ourselves as leaders. However, there is scope to be a meaningful player. Not to assert ourselves in the innovation and development engine room will render us vulnerable to global economic and technology advances. Yesterday, we celebrated Africa Day under the theme, the Year of O.R. Tambo, building a better Africa and a better world. Amongst many of O.R.'s achievements, we salute him as a freedom fighter, global fighter against sexism and racism, a science teacher, choral music lover, a communicator, a global colossus, as Madiba described him, who strode the globe so that we can be free, promoting unity, deepening ties of solidarity between us and the world. Honorable Chairperson, our continent is filled with promise, and in our relatively young and determined population, we have abundant human capital to drive Africa's future. I would like to acknowledge the presence of some of those determined young people who join us today in the gallery. They are Shirelle Daniels, they're all sitting over there. Darren Morris, Renee Sishonga, Leila Deva, Joshua Mabasa, and Babalo Mabaso, who I had. I hope my time will not be affected. I had the pleasure of meeting these beautiful young South Africans at a recent Own Your Freedom dialogue with learners from various schools in Gauteng about what it means, what freedom means to them. Together with the energy of these young people and our guiding continental development goals of Agenda 2063, we can achieve an Africa with strong cultural identity, values, and ethics. It is further underpinned by the AU's vision to build an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa that is a dynamic force in the international arena. Cheers. Today marks 40 years since 1,500 Palestinian prisoners embarked on a hunger strike to demand for basic rights in Israeli jails. I was part of a group of South Africans who joined the Solidarity hunger strike on the 14th of May to highlight the continued injustices on the people and children of the Palestine. We should always remember that we were once beneficiaries of a global solidarity movement during our fight against apartheid, and we owe it to the world to give back. Honorable House Chairperson, it is a great honor to present the DOC's 2017-18 budget since the establishment of the DOC in 2014. A number of developments have taken place, and I will outline these later. I first want to highlight the vitally important subject of governance across various entities under the Ministry of Communications. Good governance is absolutely essential and is non-negotiable. In this regard, I'm pleased to say that the DOC, the GCIS, and all other entities continue to adhere to the prescripts of the PFMA and are on track to meet their performance indicators. Budgets are being spent wisely and are working at ensuring financial stability across all entities, while capacity constraints are being addressed through the filling of vacant posts. On the matter of budget, I hereby present the total budget for the department as 4,558 million over the medium-term expenditure framework period, which is allocated as follows: 1.45 billion in 2017-18, 1.520 billion in 2018-19, and 1.612 billion in 2019-20. In the current financial year, the DOC will be allocated 100 million, GCIS 404, Brand South Africa 194, FPB 91, ICASA 430, MDDA 30, and SABC 178 million respectively. This funding will be used to accelerate our mission to create an enabling environment for the provision of inclusive and universally accessible communication services to all South Africans in a manner that promotes socio-economic development and investment through broadcasting, new media, print media, and other new technologies and brand the country locally and internationally. The Ministry of Communications is mandated to implement Chapter 15 of the NDP, which is translated to Outcome 14 on nation building and social cohesion. With the NDP as our anchor, we have been working hard to ensure citizens have access to information, which is a crucial tool in ensuring they are able to claim their rights and move their lives forward, united by common goals and a sense of patriotism. Our cherished goal is to ensure that all South Africans are informed on what is going on around them. This was always not the case. The DOC, the GCIS, and various entities will continue to do more to increase access to government communications and services so that citizens are informed about our policies and programs and can access services in order to improve their lives. I'm sure you would agree with me on the vital need of ensuring that our communication dividend benefits all South Africans. A firm foundation for the effective functioning of the department has been laid with the approval of the organizational structure and the 2015-16 to 2019-20 strategic framework. In its first years of operations, the DOC received a clean audit for 2015-16. The department will ensure to strengthen its internal controls and compliance to the legislative prescripts during implementation of our strategic goals and objectives. House Chairperson, since its inception, the DOC has hit the ground running. Broadcasting digital migration remains a flagship program of the department, and it has the potential to improve the lives of all South Africans. The rollout of the program further brings tangible benefits that will have a lasting impact across our society and economy. These include the revitalization of the electronic manufacturing industry. This development would also see South Africa leading the continent in manufacturing the integrated digital television. I am happy to say significant progress has been made in the implementation of the DTT program. To date, we have switched off 18 analog transmitters in the core towns of the SKA, and we have registered 185,000 qualifying households. My department will be working to promote media diversity and media transformation that advances our democracy, ensuring all South Africans are given a choice and a voice. In the words of renowned American linguist, philosopher, historian, social critic, and political activist, one of my favorite authors, Noam Chomsky, public opinion can be influential. The media can too be influential. In the era of fake news and misleading narratives, these words ring true. Our interactions and discussions with the industry and key stakeholders will therefore further extend the phenomenon of fake news and how it has the potential to harm democracy by driving false and misleading narratives. This must go hand in hand with discussions on racism and hate speech. According to an input by Abongile Vanga at the Fake News Roundtable held on Wednesday this week, the solution for fake news will not be found in technology. Rather, it will be found through extensive engagement between the journalism profession, government, and civil society on what the parameters we wish to put in place when defining what this phenomenon actually is. Once all social partners define the general applicable standards of what is fake news and what is not, it will be easier to communicate a South African perspective. Print and broadcast media organizations can learn from some of the best practices at the FPB, who have publicly consulted on standards aimed at articulating what child sexual abuse material is. These standards are universally applicable for any company wishing to distribute material within the Republic of South Africa. As we finalize the community broadcasting support strategy after consultations with affected stakeholders, we will continue to focus on regulatory policy transformation and funding for the sector through the MDDA. The budget vote takes place during exciting times with digital convergence driven largely by innovation and creativity, opening new possibilities and opportunities for our citizens. On the policy front, we have exciting plans to capitalize on these new opportunities. The draft white paper on audiovisual and digital content for South Africa will be submitted to Cabinet for approval to be gazetted for public comments after consultation with relevant stakeholders and provinces. It is envisaged to be published in the Government Gazette at the end of July 2017. We will ensure that the white paper is aligned with integrated ICT white paper approved by Cabinet to ensure efficiency and effectiveness of policy within the ICT sector. Deputy Minister Stella Ndabeni. During 2017-18, we intend finalizing our work around the Broadcasting Amendment Bill of 2015 in order to develop and implement a stable corporate governance model on the long-term stability and sustainability of the SABC. We are committed to a strong, independent, and relative public broadcaster which is accountable and performs optimally. Chairperson, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the work of the staff at the SABC. These are dedicated media professionals who continue to work night and day to ensure that the SABC continues to educate, inform, and entertain South Africans in all official languages. We will ensure that the SABC platforms continue to drive meaningful content that touches the lives of ordinary people daily and assists them to make informed decisions. Honorable members, in the coming year, we will continue to support and build our community media sector. The importance of community media cannot be overstated. They're often at the heartbeat of vibrant, smaller communities. Since 1994, the footprint of community media has grown steadily and has begun to emerge as an alternative voice to the mainstream media. We must therefore ensure that community radio remains true to the purpose of informing, educating, and entertaining our communities. I view the community broadcasting sector as a channel to bring citizens and government closer and ensure community members are included in relevant government public participation processes. The MDDA is intensifying our support for the community media sector. We are pleased that in the current financial year, the MDDA will present the 10-year impact study which seeks to assess the effectiveness of the impact made since the MDD's inception in 2002. The MDDA must continue supporting projects that promote the active role of people with disabilities into the sector and placing greater emphasis on correcting gender imbalances. More on the MDDA will be laid out by the Deputy Minister. The Film and Publications Board has a critical role to play, and we will then be tabling the Films and Publication Amendment Bill of 2015, which will provide a broader understanding and skilling of children, youth, parents, and teachers to deal with the new digital environment. Deputy Minister Mahambe Hlala will expatiate more on this one as well. Honorable Chairperson and members, radio and TV will deliver public value broadcasting by supporting the 5 key priorities set by government, namely job creation, education, health, rural development, eradication of crime and crime combating, including our 9-point plan. The work of Brand SA remains crucial in bringing together our socially diverse nation while striving to unite people through their love for our country. To manage the brand reputation, Brand SA conducts research and analysis of domestic and international perceptions of the nation brand. Through analysis of external indices, Brand SA is able to measure the performance of the nation. The outcomes of these analyses are shared with shareholders, with stakeholders for better understanding of the national brand and to inform decision-making. Recently, South Africa took 2nd place in the Africa Competitiveness Report, and the country's global ranking for 2016-17 improved with 9 places from 46 to 47 out of 138 countries. This work is vitally important, and we have all to play a role in building our nation. Now is the time for the spirit of patriotism and optimism. Now is the time for all South Africans to play their role as conscious brand ambassadors. All too often, outside investors only get to hear the negative stories about our great nation. It is up to us to highlight the many positive things about our nation and our people. Brand SA, thank you, honorable members. Brand SA will lead this charge by using various multimedia campaigns, national TV and radio, and internationally CNN and CNBC, to better profile the image of South Africa locally, in our continent, and abroad. The messages will be further amplified by Brand SA in collaboration with the National Treasury and other departments in the economic cluster on platforms that are created globally. ICASA is currently working to increase competition in the broadcasting sector with an investigation into South Africa's pay TV industry. It is also working to promote choice and diversity in the free-to-air TV broadcasting sector in South Africa. A notice of inquiry into subscription television broadcasting has been published, while an invitation to apply for commercial free-to-air television broadcasting service and multiplex 3-spectrum licenses has also been published. The new local content regulations published in 2016 for effective and impactful broadcasting will be effective in 2017 and for TV broadcasting services in March 2018. The implementation of the local content quotas for the current regulations shows that sound and TV broadcasting services are already generally compliant with these quotas. During the 2017-18 financial year, ICASA will facilitate investment and access to broadband infrastructure for sustaining socio-economic development. It will also promote competition and facilitate access to a broad range of communication services at an affordable cost. This now brings me to the work of the GCIS, which remains an integral part of the Department of Communications and to citizens having access to information. Next year will mark the 20th anniversary of the GCIS, and this milestone offers us a great opportunity to evaluate its impact and effectiveness of its founding principles. We profoundly thank many architects of this system and hope that they will celebrate this great milestone with us next year. We salute great compatriots like Mr. Joel Nechitenje, Mr. Esop Pahad, and Mr. Tony True. As a ministry, we have a responsibility to narrow the gap between government and the people by ensuring access to government information and constantly communicating the work of government. Our work is to inspire hope and empower citizens with tools to meaningfully change their lives and that of their communities. Over the 2017-18 MTF periods, the GCIS will continue focusing on providing strategic communications and facilitating citizen participation through our conventional forms of communications as well as new cutting-edge products. Over the medium term, the department plans to directly engage with communities through 10,458 outreach programs. During these programs, we will be taking government to the people in the villages and communities, in the communities they live. There is no doubt that our government works and continues to change lives. Many South Africans who reside in the most far-flung parts of the country will attest to this. We will continue to reach out and be part of the changes aimed at bringing a better life in the villages, taxi ranks, in shopping malls, and throughout the length and breadth of our country. Honorable members, to help government communicators to better convey messages to citizens, we will hold 14 strategic engagements with them during this financial year. We applaud many of the government communicators who continue to improve their competencies, and in this instance acknowledge the Government Communicators Program, which is now accredited at National Qualification Framework Level 3. This program has been running for more than a decade and requires more support from all government departments. Honorable members, having outlined our plans and programs, allow me to briefly touch on some of the highlights that the GCIS has achieved in the past financial year. The government communications policy has been finalized and will soon be taken to Cabinet for approval. This policy seeks to establish norms and standards to professionalize and strengthen the government communication system to ensure that it is well integrated, better coordinated, and professional, and allows for citizens to interact with government. The GCIS has given support to the community radio sector through the placement of adverts and conducting radio shows on community radio. A fortnight ago, we were celebrating the success of Eden FM in George in the Southern Cape, which has been operating for 14 years. Giving services to communities in the Karoo, Hezequa, Canaland, Knysna, Platte, and Uniondale, which also happen to be my constituencies. The GCIS has continued to conduct media placement on behalf of government departments.
1 minute left, Minister.
And agencies. Through this budget, the ministry seeks to, among others, improve universal access to broadcasting services, ensure equitable allocation of spectrum to public, private, and community players, broaden access to information by all citizens, support the growth and development of creative industries, manage digital broadcasting migration, and market the country locally, regionally, and internationally. The business sector also plays the most crucial role from the perspective of innovation, technology advancement, growing the economy, creating jobs, and making South Africa internationally competitive. The ministry will at all times support and work with all private sector players. We will support their development, growth, and competitiveness. However, we wish to warn against oligopoly, prohibitive costs, and uncompetitive behavior. During this past year, we've accelerated our work of ensuring that our people derive benefits from the communications dividend. There is every reason to be confident in our future.
Honorable
And working
Minister,
together, we can
your
ensure
time
that
is
more
up.
South Africans derive benefits from the communication space at accessible and reasonable costs. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Nyalo sitawucela lilunga lehloniphekile usihlalo welkomiti babe Maxakwana.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and greetings to the Minister, Ayanda Dlodlo, Deputy Minister Thandima Mbehlala, members of Parliament present, members of the Portfolio Committee, Chief Whip of the Majority Party present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. I must upfront say that the ANC supports the budget vote 3. Honorable Chair, as we started this 5th Parliament in 2014, declared as the activist parliament, based on the 53rd resolutions of the African National Congress in support of the National Development Plan. I nearly said democratic revolution. The President restructured the ICT sector by proclaiming the formation of a new department and reconfiguration of an existing one. Such a move was necessary considering the slow pace of transformation in the communication sector, still dominated by few companies. The intent of such reconfiguration was also to rationalize some state institutions and consolidate the communication sector such that government plays a catalytic role, particularly on reversing the communication sector apartheid-oriented patterns of ownership, control and distribution, to leverage on policies already developed to deepen people's democracy by way of access to regular government activities and information in a manner transparent and accountable, consolidation of government institutions that serve the purpose of communications and branding of the country, i.e. the FPB previously reported to Home Affairs when GCIS reported to the Presidency, and that government communication should reach all citizens and be in all languages. Such consolidation was necessary to ensure a cohesive strategy to the transformation of the communication sector. Central to this commitment is the review of the implementation of the ComTask report recommendations and the ruling party's commitment to increase financial and other resources to support transformation and efficiency of the communication sector. Now more than ever, in the advent of the rise of fake news, the importance for a coordinated national communication strategy is evident as a basis to uphold the constitutional values of our democracy. While national dialogue is harnessed through a diverse debate, it is important that government is able to communicate with one voice and articulate accordingly programs of government in a coordinated fashion. We are concerned about the funding challenges that threaten to render the budget vote irrelevant. Chairperson, I want to pay particular attention to the budget constraints of the department and its entities, and pay attention to the entities where such budget constraints can have a negative effect to the new democratic dispensation and the ideals of our Constitution. Allow me to qualify the latter statement. Communication sector has in the past hit hard by the coverage phenomenon, not to mention the rapid technological advancements that put tremendous pressure on our government and its quest to make its citizens relevant in an information society and knowledge economy. However, we still have a mandate as a signatory to many international treaties that have direct bearing on the success of our economy and its people. It is with this context that we base our argument for faster transformation such that our people, culture, and heritage remains relevant in a globalized world. The relevance of locality will always play a part to ensure that our people maintain and grow the aspects that make South Africa unique. On NDP objectives, 2014-19 electoral mandate specific to the budget vote focus on the radical economic transformation, radical economic growth and job creation, contributing to a better Africa and better world, social cohesion, and nation building. The challenges of the country are indeed unique in nature and indigenous to South African political landscape. These non-transformation practices reflect negatively on our government and its quest to meet the constitutional obligations for a robust communication sector that supports the democratic principles of the Republic as enshrined in our Constitution. If we do not, as Parliament, give particular attention to this budget vote, we stand a chance of reversing the positive progress achieved thus far, albeit that it is insufficient, and the environment continues to transform at a rapid pace that overtakes the legislative, policy, and regulatory processes of government. Currently, the department faces a multitude of challenges as a result of budget constraints. To begin with, the department has been struggling to operate independently of the GCIS, posing serious risks to the smooth running of the department in order for it to meet the legislative mandate. Coming to the DTT. South Africa is at the brink of missing the ITU, which is International Telecommunications Union deadline for switch off and analog transmitters shut up. As a result,
Order.
it's written
Order.
in the speech. Shut up is
Order.
written in the speech of the many issues,
Order.
including
Honorable
the clarity
members.
around
Honorable
encryption,
Maxakwana.
which the ETV
Honorable
has
Maxakwana.
taken government. Sorry.
Can you pause? I just want to remind members again not to use unparliamentary language. Shut up is an unparliamentary language.
No, thank you very much. I'm
So
sorry.
can we please, honorable member, can I finish
Okay.
my ruling? Can we please ask the member to withdraw?
I'm very sorry, Chair. I withdraw.
Thank you very much.
South Africa is at the brink of missing the ITU, as I said. The proliferation of digital TVs means that South Africa was still debating on the policy new TV sets with built-in digital transmitters. This is important. Were being rolled out across the world. Here we are arguing about control access, and yet the technology has developed further, rendering this very set-top boxes redundant. This means that by the time the rollout of STBs to the broader public takes place, there will be TV sets available to the market that have internal digital transmitters. Coupled with this will be a technological dumping of old TV sets under the guise that they are digitally ready. Our citizens will buy these TVs at exorbitant price and find out later that in actual fact, they bought analog TVs. This is a very serious challenge that the country faces now, and it is the commitment of the Portfolio Committee to attempt to stimulate debate around this. On SABC and MDTA, as it stands, we have witnessed how some of the entities reporting to the department have dominated the news for all the wrong reasons. In particular, the SABC, which in recent times has been consistent in the erosion of public trust. Fundamental to the challenges of the broadcaster is the funding model, which in earnest, Honorable Chairperson, Parliament has failed to build and maintain public confidence of the South African Broadcasting Corporation by ensuring that this national key point entitled with the public broadcasting mandate is adequately funded. Honorable Chair, Parliament is responsible to ensure adequate funds are made available to key programs that support the attainment of the National Development Plan goals. Also at the SABC, troubles is the challenge of governance. It is commitment of the Portfolio Committee to ensure that the public broadcaster returns to his former glory and the public trust is restored. We commend the work of the ad hoc committee into the fitness of the SABC board and the subsequent recommendations made to Parliament. Our immediate focus is ensuring that the interim board is able to carry out its mandate as it has started within the prescribed 6 months, as per the inquiry on SABC report and recommendation. It is of utmost importance that we also focus our energies on ensuring that SABC is financially stable. We must raid the culture of unnecessary payouts of staff, and in fact, ensure that we retain skilled and experienced staff. Over the past 10 years, the SABC staff had paid over 40 million rands in payouts to CEOs and other senior staff members, and this cannot be business as usual.
Honorable Chair, your time is expired.
Honorable members and staff, honorable members, the staff morale is so low and we need to do something.
On that note,
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Honorable Van Dam.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would like to begin my speech by again welcoming Minister Ayanda Dlodlo and Deputy Minister Thandi Mahambehlala to the Communications Ministry. I've said this before and I'll say it again. We want you to succeed in this portfolio. We want you to succeed in restoring good governance and public and industry confidence in this department, something that was completely destroyed by your predecessor, Faith Mothambi. It is a tragedy that Mothambi has not been held accountable for a tenure that was nothing short of catastrophic, especially for the SABC. I would like to remind this House that the 60-day deadline for the laying of criminal charges, as set in the report of the ad hoc committee on the SABC inquiry, expires on 5 June 2017. That is in 10 days. It was a recommendation in this report, adopted by parties in the National Assembly, including the ANC, for Parliament to lay criminal charges against persons who misled or provided false information during the inquiry. Minister Mothambi was indeed one of those people, and as such must be held accountable in terms of the powers and privileges and executive ethics code. Honorable Chairperson, over the next 2 years, while the ANC is still in power, Minister Dlodlo has the opportunity to be the antithesis of Mothambi, or risk her legacy being that of Minister Dololo. Over the next 2 years, the DA would like to see her bring much needed stability, legislative and policy certainty, root out corruption, and deliver quality communications, educational, and entertainment services to South Africa's people. The DA will, of course, be there at every single step to hold the minister accountable to ensure that she does not fail the people of this country. I would like to devote the rest of my speech to assisting the minister in this task. The DA is not a party that is only about pointing out problems, but we also provide solutions. As a first step, I think it would be very important for the minister to be open and honest about where the problems are and what the solutions will be. She has done so thus far, but I will caution her not to fall into the trap of shrouding the Department of Communications and its entities in secrecy, quite ironic, as her predecessor did. Keep South Africa informed at all times about the work of government, but do so without being the minister of propaganda. Let the people of South Africa be the ultimate judge about the government's work. The role of GCIS, therefore, is not to disseminate propaganda, but to inform. It is also not there to send out media advisories on behalf of obscure pro-Zuma WhatsApp groups. Honorable Chairperson, the Department of Communications is allocated a budget of 1.3 billion for the 2017-18 financial year. By the admission of the minister's own officials, this amount is too little, and under severe economic pressure, the department runs risk of running out of money before the year is done. It was therefore quite alarming to hear that the department intends on purchasing new cars for the minister and her deputy. I again urge the minister to reject these purchases and set the example of austerity for the rest of government. Do not become yet another minister wa Benzi. Chairperson, the minister's biggest task is maintaining much needed oversight over the department's entities without unduly interfering. It is imperative that the relationship between the ministry and its entities is codified in a publicly available shareholder compact so it can be subjected to constant scrutiny. The biggest problems are obviously at the SABC. We are very pleased that the interim board is steadfastly implementing the recommendations of the SABC inquiry report. The DA commends the interim board for the stellar work that they have done thus far. It is our worry, however, that the interim board appears to be moving rather slowly in instituting disciplinary proceedings against staff implicated in causing the rot at the SABC, such as CFO James Aguma and former company secretary Teresa Geldenes. It is unfathomable why these two are not on suspension, and Ms. Geldenes is said to be assisting in the SIU forensic investigation. That is like asking a fox to watch the hen house. Both should be suspended immediately and subjected to disciplinary proceedings. Together with the SABC board, we would also like to see the minister set up a panel of experts to investigate innovative means to increase the SABC's funding. At 178 million, the funding provided by government to the SABC is obviously quite insufficient. The solution to this, however, is not additional license fees for mobile devices. The DA will stand firmly in opposition to any further taxation of the already overburdened taxpayer. Chairperson, I've also had several complaints from musicians that payola is still very much in existence at SABC radio stations. Music played on the public broadcasters' radio stations should be chosen on merit, not based on who has the biggest bribe. I will be submitting a formal request to the department for a full-scale inquiry into payola at SABC radio stations and for all staff implicated to this to be brought to book. Restoring staff morale at the SABC is of utmost importance. It was absolutely heartbreaking to hear talented staffers at the SABC recounting gut-wrenching accounts of being hounded and terrorized by Hlaudi Motsoneng and his enforcers because they refused to dance to his beat. It is a disgrace that to date, SAPS's investigation into the attacks and the threats against the SABC-8 have not been finalized. I would strongly suggest that the minister personally request an update for the police ministry about this investigation. How is it that our journalists are terrorized in their own homes and one even shot in the face and not a single person has been arrested? With regards to the other equally important entities in this portfolio, at the FPB, it is important that the issues relating to its top leadership are resolved in a new CEO, COO, and CFO appointed urgently. It must never happen again, Minister, that the entities in this portfolio table badly drafted unconstitutional legislation in Parliament. The FPB Amendment Bill is a legal quagmire that has taken this committee over a year to finalize, and it will take longer still because that is just how bad that bill is. The ongoing litigation between ICASA and the Minister of Telecommunications regarding spectrum auctioning must also be resolved. There is absolutely nothing wrong with ICASA seeking to auction off its spectrum in order to increase wireless access in South Africa to boost economic growth and job creation. Finally, Chairperson, I would like to thank my colleagues in the Portfolio Committee on Communications from across the political spectrum under the chairpersonship of Humphrey Maqhekwana, who was a little bit naughty earlier. I think this is a great, he was naughty.
Honorable Van Dam,
It is
you
a
are
greatly
equally
improved-
naughty. You didn't say Honorable Maqhekwana.
Honorable Maqhekwana, I think this is a greatly improved committee from previous ones. Although we have very heated debates and we disagree often, I believe most of us are committed to fixing the problems in this portfolio. I look forward to working with you over the next 2 years, maintaining vigorous oversight over the Department of Communications. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Ilunga elihloniphekile umhlonishwa uMkwena.
Ra le dumedisa. Ke dumedisa mohlomphehi modulasetulo.
Order, honorable members, there is a speaker on the podium. Honorable Macpherson, you can come closer to the Deputy Chief Whip. Okay, thank you.
Let me state from the onset that the EFF rejects the budget vote 3 of the Department of Communication. The reasons are 3. 1, the purpose of the Broadcast Act of 1999, amended in 2002, amongst others, was to establish a strong, committed, and independent broadcasting service which will service the needs of all South Africans. Central to the purpose of the Act is an important role of fulfilling the public's right to know. Hence, an independent, adequately funded, and accountable public service broadcaster is a crucial component of the public's right to know. This department must fight until the SABC, what the SABC must be, an independent broadcaster that serves to inform the public, impart ideas, and respect journalistic freedom. And this is why it must move with swift movement to appoint a permanent, credible, and capable board and leave the SABC to perform its constitutional mandate with journalistic freedom, independence, and healthy, distant proximity from government and ANC politics. 2, 3 years later, we are still not clear why Mr. Zuma decided to split the telecommunications and communications as departments, a misguided decision which has led to nothing but duplication, confusion, and waste of resources. While international trends and innovation is moving towards streamlining and integration of broadcasting and communication, this administration has decided to do the opposite. And unlike the previous minister who was incompetent, we hope the current one is effective. That is besides the issue, because the issue here is that the department should never have been created in the first place, and bringing in a new minister will not solve anything. Under its stewardship, ICASA is still not performing its mandate and has no teeth. The GCIS is not effective, it's not an effective body. It peddles propaganda, and its mandate is confusing and duplicate in character. 3, the Department of Communication to even suggest that implementation of broadcast digital migration got off to a slow start is misleading the public. The truth is that incompetent people with corrupt intent were tasked with the implementation of the migration, and they have failed to do so. As a result, the migration deadline was postponed to 2018, a decision that was never substantiated with cogent argument. We stand here as the EFF to make the following proposal. It is never too late to close this department and reintegrate it into telecommunications. Minister Ayanda Dlodlo, as effective as we hope she is, can go back to public service, and the president, and if the president insists on Minister Mutambi in his cabinet, she can be minister without portfolio. The EFF has long called for the amendment of the ICASA Act and to make the institution a Chapter 9 institution. No amount of propaganda and so-called good story to tell will change the fact that the ANC has reached its expiry date, and we must move on. The GCIS is not performing its duty. Thank you very much.
Ngiyalokudwa ucela ilunga lehloniphile umhlonishwa uFan Nermeve. Malunga hloniphekile lendlu yesishamthetho. Masitiphathe njengamalunga kukhona sikhulumi lesesikhona lesitawubeka umlayeto waso ngiyanicela ninabe kunene nitiphathe kahle. Yebo. Lunga lehloniphekile ungaqhubeka.
Honourable House Chairperson, let me at the outset, on behalf of the IFP, congratulate the Minister and the Deputy Minister on their appointments. The IFP pledges our support to both of you. And let me also at the outset again thank the people of Mnutu who voted overwhelmingly for the IFP in yesterday's by-elections. We thank them for trusting
Order,
the IFP.
honorable members.
We hope that the people of Mnutu's
Order.
story will be, we hope,
Honorable Hadebe,
I will repeat.
let's allow the member to rejoice a bit. And we,
Honourable
me
Speaker,
repeat.
what is the
I
point
wish
of
to-
order?
rise on a point of order
What is the
Our
point of
Chief
order?
Whip.
informed by Rule 68.
What?
Irrelevance.
Not at all. No, I'll get there. I'll get there.
Order.
Wait, I'll get there. I'll make
Order,
it relevant,
honorable
Chief
member.
Whip. I'll make it relevant.
While I appreciate Honorable Chief Whip your point, but I had already allowed that the member, she was within her rights to
And Chief Whip, I'll make
congratulate
it
and thank the
relevant.
people
Hang
of
on.
She can proceed with her speech
So
now.
let me
Proceed.
repeat. I thank the people of Mnutu for voting for the IFP overwhelmingly in the by-election. And we hope that the people's story will be told and that the seismic change we are seeing in the body politic of South Africa that will be adequately reflected on the SABC's radio and TV stations. Honourable House Chairperson, the IFP recognises that the battle to save the SABC is far from over. Almost 5 years ago, the IFP marched to Auckland Park. We did so because our public broadcaster had become a state broadcaster. It was no longer the voice of all South Africans. Overwhelming evidence to this effect was recently presented to the ad hoc committee probing the affairs of the SABC. The committee also heard how successive SABC boards had failed to carry out its duties and how its chairpersons had failed to provide leadership. It also heard of the abuse of power by executives, rendering the SABC's governance structures weak. But this begs the question, what had led to the SABC being managed by successive, weak, and incompetent boards? The IFP has always argued that the process of appointing SABC boards is a deeply flawed process. It relies on us as politicians to recommend names to serve on this board, a process that some in the ANC has routinely abused. Political interference has been built into the system and ruthlessly exploited. At the heart of the crisis were individuals who ran the SABC like it was their own personal property. They feared no one. At the heart of the crisis was a captured board, captured newsrooms, and an editorial policy that so desperately tried to shield the ANC from negative publicity. This situation must never repeat itself again. And now the interim board must try to unravel the mess. The IFP supports them in this massive undertaking, and we commend them for the great work that they've done so far. But Minister, we also need to have a conversation here at Parliament as to how we start to appoint SABC boards that are no longer beholden to politicians, but that are truly independent and a true reflection of our society at large. And it must happen here at Parliament before we embark on a process of finding another permanent board for the SABC. Money lost to corruption and mismanagement must be recovered. Some guilty parties, such as Mr. Motsoeneng, Ms. Faith Mutambi, Mrs. Ellen Shabalala, and Mr. Ben Ngubane, must be personally held responsible. This will also assist the SABC in repairing some of its reputational damage it has suffered over many years, failing which the SABC will struggle to regain the public's trust and reverse its declining viewership. And let me also state that the IFP rejects the proposal for fees for mobile devices, and we believe that vacant posts must be filled without further delay. It also remains unthinkable that while the SABC is facing financial ruin, while it cannot pay hardworking local artists and performers, that Mr. Motsoeneng continues to earn a whopping 4 million rand something salary for doing nothing. We are hopeful that the hearing into his conduct will be completed swiftly. Chairperson, I recently had the privilege of spending a week with 4 journalists of the SABC 8. What struck me about them was that despite the fact that they were had been harassed, threatened, and vilified by the likes of Mr. Motsoeneng, their deep loyalty and commitment to the public broadcaster remained intact. They, like many of the other hardworking journalists here at Parliament and elsewhere, remain the vanguards of the values and ethics that the SABC should espouse. We thank them for their service to the nation. Minister, at the outset of your speech, you had conveyed condolences to all the women and children who had lost their lives due to gender-based violence. And I would like to make a plea to you today. I also serve on the Portfolio Committee of Social Development and Women in the Presidency. Government has got a flagship call center which is meant to assist women that face abuse at home and elsewhere. But this government call center is invisible. And I would like to appeal to you to make sure that you use GCIS and the SABC to ensure that this call center is widely publicized so that every woman and every child knows about this call center and is able to access it.
Honourable
In
Member,
conclusion, we
your
support the
time is up.
recommendations of the Portfolio Committee as it pertains to the other entities. And for the very first time in a long time, the IFP will support your budget. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Mahambeshala, the Deputy Minister of Communications. And also for her, while she has been a serving member, she's in her capacity giving her maiden speech.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Minister of Communications, Ms. Ayanda Dlodlo, leadership of entities reporting to our department, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans, allow me to greet you. As we mark Africa Month, it would be remiss of me not to condemn the high concentrations of patriarchy and the concentrated violence against women and children. I stand here as a woman and invoke the words of immortal African revolutionary Thomas Sankara, and I quote his words. The revolution and women's liberation go together. We do not talk of women's emancipation as an act of charity or out of a surge of human compassion. It is a basic necessity for the revolution to triumph. Women hold the other half of the sky. Close quote. Men must know that women play an integral part in our society. Any form of violent abuse and oppression against them is a betrayal of the African Revolution and its values. House Chairperson, members of Parliament, the call to build a better Africa starts here with us. During the State of the Nation address, the President of the country, His Excellency President Zuma, articulated a problem that plagues our society. He said, I quote, 22 years into our freedom and democracy, the majority of black people are still economically disempowered. They are dissatisfied with the economic gains from the liberation. Fellow South Africans, President Zuma called for the radical and socio-economic transformation is the call for industries to reflect the composition of all those who live in this country. It is a call for South Africa not be ruled by corporatocracy. And fellow South Africans, President Zuma, honorable members, as the Ministry of Communications, our role is not only to articulate what radical socio-economic transformation means, but also to implement it in the industry through various entities we oversee. Our interventions as a ministry need to form the basis of structural transformation in the media industry, and through the NDP, we are required to transform the psychological structure of our society by creating an environment in which social cohesion thrives and nation building is the order of the day. This will not be achieved by casual and sentimental activities. We must be committed to one simple course of action, that is the implementation of the Freedom Charter in its truest form. Our people can no longer stomach the modification of an economic system they did not design. Fellow South Africans, the Minister has entrusted me with the full responsibility of working with Films and Publication Board to ensure that television content, games and films consumed by our children is suitable for their consumption. In the next month, we will mark the opening of the Child Protection Week. With the evolution of technology and digitization of broadcast media, it is critically important that our society is educated about the role of FPB, which is to ensure that our kids interact with suitable content, amongst other things. This nation has a long history of socio-politically motivated violence, which has sustained itself in many parts of the country. This is evidenced in the high occurrence of criminal violence with severe consequences for children. This requires us as government to have an intersectional and integrated collaborated response. Through the work of FPB, we are at the forefront of safeguarding our society from harmful online content, which is made more accessible due to the greater access to inform and service in the digital era. To combat the prevalence of explicit online content, the FPB is intensifying its awareness campaign to empower citizens, particularly children, on being responsible digital citizens. The board will roll out cyber safety awareness campaigns in 6 provinces, targeting 200 parents, 800 learners, and up to 400 educators. Research commissioned by FPB with the University of South Africa has shown that children have been desensitized to violent content while adults no longer concern themselves with violence in the media. This is of particular concern as close to 40% of films and games rated by FPB contain mild to extreme violence. But there is hope, fellow South Africans. In a first of the African continent, the FPB, in collaboration with UNISA, has established a content classification academic qualification that will improve the quality of education and skills development in the sector. This will benefit society and provide a more efficient service to customers. The FPB has commenced implementation of its online content regulation system that moves the organization away from manual processes that often resulted in backlog. The FPB is working closely with our law enforcement agencies to ensure compliance. Last year, 39,441 CDs and DVDs valued at 3.9 million were confiscated. As the ministry, we will work closely with the Portfolio Committee to make amendments of the FPB Amendment Bill. I encourage all South Africans to participate in the consultation processes of the bill. It is through these conversations that we as a country can articulate our values and norms and how we would like to see them reflected through the media content we consume. Compatriots, in the gallery, we have the cast members and the producer of award-winning South African feature, Kalushi. This film won the Best Film Award at the Luxio African Film Festival in Egypt. Furthermore, Thabo Rametsi's portrayal of Kalushi earned him the Best Actor accolade in the BRICS International Film Festival in India. This extraordinary film tells the story of Kalushi, also known as Solomon Mahlangu. Kalushi is a young man of bravery against the apartheid regime.
Order, Honorable Deputy Minister, they would like to see the person you just mentioned.
Listen to my speech.
Order. Is Thabo here?
Honorable Chairperson, you are disrupting me. Can I proceed?
I have not taken your minutes. It's just that members were howling and asking to see the person. If the member is not here, thank you very much. You can proceed.
Chairperson, the generation and Yizo actor is here amongst us as Member of Parliament. Applaud. This extraordinary film tells the story of Kalushi,
Order,
also known as
Deputy
Solomon
Minister,
Mahlangu.
There's a point of order.
No, Chair,
What's the point of order?
I appreciate the appreciation that I get from the members here, but it was 14 years ago. Can we get over it?
Can you
please?
take a seat, Honorable
very
Member?
much.
Order. Honorable members, that's not a point of order. It's a point of information. Thank you very much, but not relevant for today's debate. Continue, Deputy Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, Kalushi is a young man stood up bravely against the apartheid regime and was hanged by the unjust apartheid regime in the gallows of Pretoria Central Prison on the 6th of April, 1979. Coincidentally, On the 6th of April, it happens to be the day upon colonialism in the form of Jan van Riebeeck descended on our shores. It is Kalushi's statements which keeps the desire in us to ensure that South Africa becomes truly liberated, and I quote his words when he said, "My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. Tell my people that I love them. They must continue the fight." Close quote. We are Kalushi, and Kalushi is us. Biopic films of our national heroes form part of a vital historic narrative that tells the story of our country's proud resistance to colonialism and apartheid. These stories are relevant to all our generations, including young people searching for answers and seeking inspiration from our own national stories. I would like to congratulate the following individuals. Could they please stand as I mention their names? Mr. Mandla Dube, who is the director of this movie, unfortunately, he could not be with us today. Mr. Walter Ayers, the producer of this film, and all of the other actors who are represented by Mr. Zweli Dube, who's also an actor on Mubango. Honorable members, Zweli Dube portrays the character of an exiled commander of the People's Army, Umkhonto weSizwe, Minister Ayanda Hlolo. I am pleased to announce, Chair, that this ministry will also play its part over the next couple of months. It will also play its part over the next couple of months. We will be working closely with the team to screen Kalushi in communities whom traditionally would not have the means to view this film. In so doing,
You have got 1 minute.
In so doing, we educate community about fundamental parts of our history and use it as an opportunity to share awareness on how film content is classified by the FPB. Let me remind you that we have a duty to support the producers of local content in the arts and other industries. In so doing, we draft our own narrative and also create jobs in local industries as well as brand identity of our young people. Honorable Chairperson, it is high time that Parliament allows local community media and gives them full access to Parliament like mainstream media.
Honorable Deputy Minister, if you can round up, your time is up.
Thank you, Chairperson. A proper implementation of the DTT program will ensure that all South Africans are part of the digital revolution, particularly those in the community media space. This means that community radio stations can expand their broadcasts across the country. In the past month, I have visited a number of community radio stations across the country.
I'm
Amongst
sorry,
those were-
Deputy Minister, your time
Thank
has
you very
expired.
much, Chair.
Honorable Kubisa. Honorable Kubisa.
Tin Pungan. Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, Ministers present, Deputy Ministers, Honorable members, guests in the gallery. Angisho ke ngithi mhlonishwa ngqongqoshe siyakuhalalisela no sekela ngqongqoshe siyanhalalisela emsebenzini, and you have our support as National Freedom Party, and we hope that you will be able to do this work with the necessary diligence, and of course you have a challenge ahead of you. But having said that, Chairperson, this department has an important mandate to develop an overarching communications and broadcasting policy and strategy for the country, to provide ways to disseminate information and publicity in order to promote and inform citizenry. And finally,
Order, honorable members, let's allow the speaker on the podium to be heard. Let's not converse loudly.
And finally, to promote and inform citizenry and to promote South Africa abroad as a brand to assist the country in its efforts to attract investment, foster economic growth, and creation of employment opportunities. Having said that, Chairperson, I think it is of paramount importance that, Honorable Minister, I touch on some of the very pertinent issues that were put forth by the ad hoc committee. I'm saying this, of course, taking into full cognizance that we have the chair of the portfolio committee and the interim board that has taken over. And we want to say we acknowledge the work that the interim board has begun to do, the vigor, and of course the courage with which they are doing their work. And I think that is commendable in light of what has been happening in the SAPC in particular. And I believe, Minister, Deputy Minister, having said that, you have an arduous task ahead of you. There are recommendations, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, that were put forth by the ad hoc committee, such as there's remedial action that was proposed by the public protector. I think that will be actioned, and I've seen that the board has also begun to action some of the findings of the Auditor General because I believe these are pertinent. We say these things with that patriotic spirit to ensure that we build SAPC in particular. And of course, I've already said that you have our support. And also there are other matters that were reported by the ad hoc committee, and I believe that the portfolio committee is going ahead with them, with the interim board as well, like ensuring that you terminate those irregular deals and tenders, etc., because they were not parcel of the procedure, the way SAP should be working. And I've seen that also the interim board has begun to ensure that senior positions and middle managed positions are filled, because there's no organization that can function properly if there are vacant posts and people are acting in those positions. I believe then that that task will be done. And of course, dealing with corruption, just dealing with it head on, because it tarnishes the good name of the broadcaster. And I agree with other members that have said, it is not good news to hear that there is a shortfall of 509 million or so within the organization. It might be wrong because we get it from the media, but I hope that you'll deal with that, turning around the finances of the SAPC, dealing with internal controls, dealing with audit measures within the SAPC, because we have to ensure that we bring back that stature, that image of the organization. And of course, making sure that other entities do their work so that SAPC becomes the mouthpiece of the public, has to inform in a non-partisan manner, accountable and efficient manner. I believe we have to bring these issues to the table, Honorable Minister, with an aim of building and working together. You have our support. We support the budget.
Thank you very much. Honorable Matisha. Order.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Please permit me to welcome the new Minister and her deputy. I hope that they will ensure that the working together that presently permeate the working committee is ossified. The portfolio committee, I want to emphasize, works together, and the majority of resolutions are arrived at in unison. Communications, the challenges that I'm talking about here, that face us as a country are momentous, and thus need enough resources, both material and financial. Hence, I don't know whether to support the budget or not. I say this because of, in my view, more is needed. Because having gone into the whole thing, having had discussions, having discussed this as the portfolio committee, we know that a lot has got to be looked into. Hence, I say that I don't know whether we should, at this stage, arrive at that particular stage. Now, the challenges I refer to include, but not limited to, the problems faced by the workers. I here talk about the posts or positions which are not safe. Their future, the future of the workers in the media, both public and beyond, is not okay. And we need to talk about this and see how we can be able to have them protected. Some of these people are in the commercial media circles. We as a country need to talk about that and see how we can be able to have this handled. Now, the other thing is the time, that much time is given to the national, and very minimal time is given to the rural or smaller milieu. We must address that urgently. And I therefore, Minister, shall say that you and the committee, we need to sit down and look into that. It is a very serious problem. Now, I must thank, through you, Chairperson, the SABC board for having done their best. Thus far, they have been able to do their best, I want to emphasize. There have been very serious problems there. You have a man, for example, it's not him only, you have a man who gets even more than the president of the country per month. You have a man who gets bonuses of 14 million, and later he was supposed to get 33 million rand. But then we have said to the board, look into this so that we then can be able to deal with this as a matter of urgency. Mutwening cannot be allowed because SABC belongs to the people of our country. Now, there are other areas, such as ETV.
You've got half
for
a
instance.
minute, if you can round up, sir.
Okay, okay. Now, there are other media institutions such as ETV. I remember about 2-3 years ago, we went and interacted with them and others as well, and we said we'll come and see them. We have not done that. I think we need to do that. But as I sit down, Chairperson, I'm saying that there are ones, such as ANN7, that have stolen our money, the monies of the people,
Honourable
and that
member,
has got to be
your time is
returned.
up.
But thank you very much, the board and the portfolio committee.
Thank you very much to you too. Honorable Machoba.
House Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable members, Honorable Chief Whip of the majority, the distinguished guests. Hence, I can debate here in Parliament without fear of reprisal. Thank you, Minister, for your commitment to taking up a campaign on violence against women, and would like to invite social partners to participate in the campaign. I call all ordinary citizens to support the clarion call for creating safer communities. I would also like to plead with the judiciary not to be lenient with the killer of Karapo Mukwena. The family must not be victimized twice. A victory of Karapo is a victory for all South Africans. My solidarity pledge to all men who continuing respecting the women. I saluted them, and I'm still continuing saluting them. The campaign is in line with you, Minister, the Department of Community Mandate of Caring, inspire hope and carries aspiration of our people. The entities under your leadership, Minister, are entrusted
with enormous responsibility of creating a platform for South Africans to have a conversation with each other. This is a commitment that the ANC-led government made to its people. The other entities protect citizens from viewing content that might not be of value for both their ages and choice clarifications. It educates citizens to ensure that they are careful about the content they post about themselves, in particular children. Once and more, this is a reflection of ANC-led government to building a rights-based society and protecting vulnerable citizens. While the MDDA is responsible for an empire that citizens are able to use media platform to develop a common cause on issues that affect them. Through its financial support, it provides an opportunity for communities to identify common grounds and bridge the social class gaps. Open lines communication are critical for lasting solution into complex. The past financial year saw ongoing strides made in transformation of the media, with MDDA approving more community media projects that it had any previous share since it awarded its first project in 2004, and major initiative in progress that will positively impact on the future of the agency and its contribution to a sustainable and vibrant media sector. Despite the fact that the transformation of the media remains a challenge for South Africans' democracy, the media landscape has changed considerably since 2004, with the MDDA being largest contributor to enabling access to control of and management of the sector by historical disadvantage individual. Of more than 200 community radios, historically disadvantaged individual, of more than 200 community radio station existence, 135 were and more than 80 still are funded by MDDA. Honorable House Chair and Honorable members, considerable progress was made in 2016 and 2017 in developing a second, more encompassing strategy. The Khayelitsha Gugulethu social integration strategy in Western Cape, based on the existing radios Bonele in Khayelitsha, within community leaders from other townships, also indicating their wish be part of process in African communities, also radio stations. House Chair and honorable members, with greater access to the internet, advanced mobile business, it becomes easier to access content, at times content which is harmful
Please
to children.
conclude.
The internet has become the biggest threat, not only to children, but to national security at large, despite its benefits when it comes to knowledge sharing, improved communication, education, entertainment. The internet is also haven to questionable characters and forces of darkness.
Thank you
who
very
prey
much.
on innocent.
Thank you.
The
Thank
ANC
you.
support the budget.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Minister, may I firstly, on behalf of the ACDP, congratulate the Honourable Minister and Deputy Minister on your appointments, and we wish you well. And we share your sentiments condemning acts of violence against women and children. And we as men need to do more. We on the Justice Committee also need to do more. And so I share hashtag not in my name. My particular interest, although I don't serve on this portfolio committee, is of course with the SABC, having served on the ad hoc committee. And we commend the interim board. It is making good progress in implementing the recommendations of the ad hoc committee. Thank you. It is also heartening, and I raised it in the Justice Committee, that the SIU should step in and assist the SABC, and I'm pleased that that recommendation is being implemented, because I believe the SIU will go a long way, and they are obtaining a speedy proclamation for the forensic inquiry into wasteful, irregular, and corrupt expenditure. Now, that inquiry was a learning curve for all of us that serve as MPs, and we trust, and from the ACDP side, that we'll be able to conduct similar investigations, such as into ESCOM. Now, one of the telling findings was that the former minister, and this was a finding of Parliament, displayed incompetence in carrying out her responsibilities as shareholder representative. And we trust, Honourable Minister, that you will perform your duties in a far more efficient manner, and we do wish you well in this regard. We would urge the Portfolio Committee to be most vigilant, given the inquiry's finding that we, Parliament, now remember that's me as well, parliamentarians, may have relinquished our duty to hold the executive and consecutive boards to account. And this may have rendered Parliament, remember the finding was Parliament, including me, complicit in the gradual decline in good governance accountability at the SABC. So we have a very important role to exercise oversight. We also note and remind the Minister and the Portfolio Committee on the findings on the Broadcasting Amendment Bill. And if I understood you correctly, Minister, you were saying you were reconsidering that bill, but it does present problems for Parliament in as much it removes our role in the appointment and dismissal of board members, so we need to look at that very carefully. And we also, from my perspective, I studied the Auditor General's management letters, and that is something we need as parliamentarians to look into. We tend to focus on the Auditor General's reports, but the management letters that come in before, and in this regard, we were able to obtain that, indicated the SABC had a serious cash flow problem already at the end of last year, and we inserted that into the report. Clearly, we need to look at the refunding of the SABC, and we need to understand what ICASA requires them to do, those stringent conditions. And so we need to look at that, but at the same time, we need to stop cross-subsidization of rival broadcasters such as ANN7 and the DSTV. And what was also disconcerting to us was the intimidation that we saw of witnesses coming to Parliament, the SABC 8, and we are grateful that that matter is being attended to. We would like to commend all staff members of SABC and, of course, the other entities that are represented here for their commitment, and that we as Parliament are now stepping up our oversight role to ensure that proper oversight is expressed and done, and that these entities will fulfill their constitutional mandates. Minister, just a last concluding comment. As far as fasting in solidarity with Palestinian prisoners is concerned, we as Christians are taught to remember all those in prison as though we are there with them. And so we would also urge, and we would broaden our prayers in this regard to include all prisoners worldwide, and more particularly those vulnerable men and women who've been suffering for their faith and are being killed for their faith. And we see that those horrendous things that we saw in Syria and Iraq, where Muslims, Christians, Jewish people were killed for their faith. So let us also, from our side, we would urge a broadening of that to look at the persecuted church, persecuted faiths across the world. Thank you very much. We will support this budget vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Swartz.
Honourable Chair, Minister, the Deputy Minister, the various institutions that you are leading, honourable members of Parliament, I greet you all in the name of a great country, South Africa. I think, Minister, the biggest challenge we're faced with is the understanding of the essence of communication. That even the kind of budget that we give to the department needs to interrogate whether we've got a common understanding about the essence of communication in nation building. Because the biggest problem, if there is no information, clarity is casualty. When people don't know, they get worried. If they continue not to know, they become tense. If they continue not to know, they fight or flight. And instability becomes the game of the day in the lack of clarity because of the absence of information. But how you have actually entered this department, you have demonstrated your understanding of that. A number of issues that were not understood about SABC, you quickly came to clarify them because you knew the toxicity of uncertainty, how it kills any nation. Now, until 1912, liberation struggle in South Africa would have been viewed as pure black versus white tussle. This situation would have at times, and it did at times, mobilize racial alliances. During this unfortunate era of division, humanity as a basis for human connect would have been sidelined in favor of racism and ethnic stereotypes. It is during this period that mere race and or ethnicity determine both human alliances and wars. Until 1912, in particular 1969, when our movement theorized our struggle for human triumph became a preferred ideal to race and ethnicity. Once ANC theorized and communicated worldwide the purpose of the struggle, the world descended in our shores to pledge allegiance to the cause of humanity, not race. The South African miracle only came to fruition when humanity crossed racial lines to share or exchange their views on the basis of human interest outside racial trivialities. It is at this point that the great leaders of Luthuli, in dealing with the cynicism of racism and preferring to resolve our problems peacefully through communication and negotiations, he had this to say when he was asked what did he think the PAC stand for after splintering from the African National Congress. I quote, he said, "I'm not sure if I know. However, if they say Africa for Africa, I agree. But if they say Africa for the indigenous, they are no different from the enemy you are fighting. For you cannot fight a racially exclusive oppression with a racially exclusive resistance at the risk of confusing our children." What Albert Luthuli, the chief, was trying to do here, he was committing theoretically, as per our movement, the importance of articulating to those who did not understand what we stood for so that we can find one another. Our forebears knew that the defeat of these stereotypes cannot be an event. It calls for endless conversations amongst ourselves using all means at our disposal. And that's why Albert Luthuli asserted at all times that ours was a struggle against a race, ours was not a struggle against a race, but a racial system. I therefore appreciate, Honorable Minister, that interventions are made in actually understanding this, that unless communication is actually dealt with and we intervene, this historic mission of our country will become a pipe dream. I therefore appreciate, when you look at GCIS, the fact that the set of objectives that are aligned seek to deal with this matter. A responsive, cost-effective, complaint and business-focused organization, and amongst other listed objectives. In particular, a professionalized communication. Of course, enhancing image of government honestly. A service that promotes governance and a program that boosts the share of government's voice in public honestly. And a research investment that ensures that the manner in which we interact with our people is informed. This department is actually committing to ensure that 10,458 outreach programs are in place and publishing 111 edition of communicator products and production and distribution of 18.7 million copies of the Vukuzenzele, and the amount of money committed to intergovernment coordination is commended. In the citizen participation, a 1,200 communication development project and 1,000 community and stakeholder lesson visits per year. On the ICASA side, with their mandate, here they focus on the electronic communication, broadcasting, and postal services, the areas of their mandate. In taking this mandate forward, the authority has selected areas of focus, such as universal access, universal service, and access to broadcast services, improved organizational service delivery, common national identity and social cohesion, improved stakeholder and consumer experience. The authority is commended for organizational realignment process. And more importantly, ICASA's main responsibility is to ensure that what is communicated and accessible is fairly reflective of the diverse South African attitudes of our life. This is done through ensuring all South African languages are used and reach the entire human geography of our country. It is here where the attributes of developmental state should find expression. At the risk of losing time, the authority holds a vision for expansion and modernization of ICT sectors as enabler for economic growth. The vision finds expression in the following manner, titled National Outcome for ICT. Competitive market structure that can facilitate lower communication cost, countrywide availability of affordable broad infrastructure enabled through implementation of a digital agenda, and an agile institutional framework for effective regulation that enables the sector to meet stakeholder needs. And the 5-year plan continues to be adaptable to the following: migration from analog to digital broadcasting platform, increasing demand for broadband services, increasing demand for broadband services, and need for assignment of the radio frequency spectrum. I also want to draw your attention, Minister, to the risk they are articulating, in particular the budget issue. And I think this matter, all members of parliament, because communication is key and because the objective of nation building in South Africa remains the primary one for a prosperous society. I dare say only when we converse, communicate, account.
Please conclude, Honorable Member.
Only when we converse, communicate, account to and amongst one another and the world, that will become a dependable, predictable, reliable nation, that we can unleash energies of all South Africans and that of the world for the pursuit of our fundamental noble nation to realize a national democratic society. Naturally, ANC would support the budget, but however, I wanted to say to FF, I agree with what you have said, but if you don't support the budget, how are we going to fund those things you're actually proposing?
Thank you very much, Honorable Fante.
Honorable Chair, members of the House, corruption, maladministration, and wasteful expenditure can be traced back to almost every single communication entity. On 17 June 2015, due to the inept action by the department, our country failed to meet the analog switch-off date as was set by the International Telecommunication Union. During a committee meeting this month, we were informed that we could once again miss the 2018 deadline. It seems that in the ANC government, deadlines are delivery dates for failure. Vertragings in die uitrol van digitale migrasie het 'n groot impak op spektrumbeskikbaarheid. Dit benadeel die uitsaaibedryf ernstig, veral met betrekking tot gemeenskapsmedia. 'n moratorium op die lisensiering van gemeenskapradio's in September 2015 kan nie gelig word nie as gevolg van die feit dat daar nie voldoende spektrum is nie. Die DA sien dat die ANC nie by belofte hou om gemeenskapmedia en diversiteit te bevorder nie. It should come as no surprise to us, but there is also a delay in the finalization of the media transformation and diversity policy. According to ICASA, the white paper on audiovisual and digital content will take another 4 years to complete. The DA knows this will have a further impact on DTT immigration. Yet again, the ANC does not keep its promises. The largest budget increase in the department is seen in Programme 4, Entity Oversight, which increased by 94.3 million. However, no amount of money thrown at this problem will rectify the widespread maladministration in entities. There is also an increase of 33.1 million for communication and branding, which seems rather excessive in a country where citizens are literally starving. Ons sit met 'n entiteit soos Brand SA, wat poog om Suid-Afrika te promoveer, terwyl die ANC-president sukkel om te tel hoeveel skade hy berokken. Rommelstatus dankse 'n rommelregering. Meer geld word spandeer aan die versterking van bestaande gemeenskapmedia as om nuwe geleenthede te skep. Die DA versoek dat die befondsingsmodel van gemeenskapmedia ernstig hersien word. Belastingbetalers betaal ongeveer 21 miljoen rand om BSA landhoofde in die VSA, China en Verenigde Koninkryk te akkommodeer. Die oogmerk om die land se reputasie te bestuur en te bemark. Basiese duplisering van SA toerisme se pligte. Beide entiteite het kantore in genoemde lande. Parlementêre vrae het uitgewys dat doelwitte in die Verenigde Koninkryk en VSA nie bereik is nie. Dit wil sê, doelwitte vir 2 uit 3 lande was onsuksesvol. In die ekonomiese tyd waarin ons tans is landshoofde werklike prioriteit. In 2014, the MDDA had a vacancy rate of 50%, and until recently, the status remained unchanged. The chair of the board even appointed herself as acting CEO and lied about it in a committee meeting. We have nothing to show for all these increases, except a department and entities like the SABC that are so cooped up in corruption that they have failed to serve the people in South Africa. Die DA vra vandag, wat doen entiteite om geld te bespaar? Mutambi, Mutsuneng, Zuma, hoekom raak die ANC nie ordentlik van sy probleemkinders ontslaan nie? Watter vertroue boesem entiteite werklik by die publiek? Daar is net geen gevolge vir wanprestasie in hierdie regering nie. Corruption is killing opportunities. The ANC is killing opportunities. Just ask the 9 million people in South Africa that cannot find a job. We need to stop rewarding institutional failures. We need to stop investing in corruption.
Please conclude.
Come 2019, the South African public has the opportunity to vote against corruption and the failure of the system. I urge every citizen to make their vote count. Ons land verdien beter as die ANC.
Chairperson, ministers and deputy ministers who are still here, honorable members, distinguished guests. Let me first say, men who rape, murder children and women do not deserve and are not worth to be called men. They are animals. I'm sure we'll propose to our chief whip, and he must convey this to other chief whips of all other parties, that they must mobilize men in parliament, including staff, to picket with the placards saying, "Not in our name." Honorable members, this is the year of O.R. Tambo. Let me open my speech by quoting Comrade President Mandela when he said about Comrade O.R. Tambo. In paying tribute to our Comrade President, I am addressing not only the unrivaled qualities and achievements of individual Oliver Tambo. I am addressing also the man as the crystallization and personification of what the ANC is and became under his leadership. Indeed, Chairperson, we are indebted to Comrade O.R. Tambo for his sacrifice and contribution in shaping our non-racial democracy. Chairperson, I want to focus my contribution to this debate by quoting ANC's characterization of the present communications environment. In its draft discussion document on communication, the ANC says, we are in a contested communications environment characterized by rapid uptake of social media by many of our citizens. Social media use is fast surpassing traditional media consumption in countries around the world. Interconnectivity, whereby many sources of information are consumed on multiple devices. Ongoing battle of ideas has assumed global dimensions unprecedented since the advent of modern media, says the African National Congress. ANC calls for strengthening communication capacity of the executive and legislative branches of government. Develop a roadmap towards realization of Vision 2030 of the NDP. And within this context, develop a program towards the fourth industrial revolution. Radical transformation of the media industry and building of plurality of voices within society. Government, guided by NDP, must focus, as it have started in some areas, on preparing South Africa for digital economy and fourth industrial revolution, driven by increased use and adaptation of ICT tools in all human activities. Technological developments have now made machine-to-machine communication, robots and autonomous systems able to operate with or without human intervention in spheres of human activity. Fourth industrial revolution contains within it possibilities to disrupt current economic and social structures profoundly over the next 20 to 50 years. The task of South African government, including sector, is to plan effectively and position the country openly and engage proactively with rapidly evolving technologies. We invite the private sector to this endeavor. Available research estimates that by 2025, there will be more machine-to-machine communication than connected people in the world. This marked shift from personal contact to new trajectory driven by machine-to-machine communication will forever alter local, national, and global economic landscape. It is important that government focus on the impact of the impending disruptive changes on citizens and society, and ensure that the discussion is not about technology in and of itself or in isolation to its associated societal impact. Radical shifts in social and economic systems as a result of the fourth industrial revolution will include shifts across all industries and results in irreversible disruption of business processes of existing companies, reshaping how goods and services are produced, consumed, transported, and delivered. The fourth industrial revolution is expected to increase wealth of nations and individuals, surpassing figures attained during previous epochs. There will be winners and losers. Without government intervention, through policy formulation, there is a danger that technological changes can reinforce prevailing disparities, widen existing digital divide, perpetuate economic exclusion, with gaps in between the highest and lowest paid in society, exacerbate gender discrimination and social insecurity. modern innovations in and of themselves will not automatically deal with existing social and economic challenges. It is likely that the fourth industrial revolution will reproduce some of inequalities and related challenges that have characterized the previous eras. These challenges will assume forms as those of the past, characterized by skewed distribution of resources between the have and have-nots and between nation states. Furthermore, it will have a serious impact on the distribution of incomes and jobs between and inside countries. To conclude, the ANC approach to the fourth industrial revolution is premised on the need to ensure shared growth and development involving all citizens as active participants in the new economic and social environment. This is what the ANC is putting before you, South African people, to consider as we enter the fourth industrial revolution. In closing, I want to go back and contribute to those who have described what O.R. Tambo was and what he still to inspire us about. In closing, one of Comrade President O.R.'s attributes and qualities was his ability to listen to views of others, pay attention to detail, a capacity to unite people, reproduced himself through others, as shown by a caliber and quality of leaders he nurtured to later lead ANC. An ability to develop tactics and strategies to overcome difficult situations. Comrade O.R. Tambo was an outstanding communicator. Comrade Chair, I cannot close without sharing with you these very interesting developments. Wheels are coming off from the Mini Cooper unholy coalition between the DA and small opposition parties. We always knew that is coming. An unholy alliance founded on anti-ANC foundations and returning status quo of minority rule. Deep differences that have showed themselves openly in Nelson Mandela Metro Council between Deputy Mayor Bobani and Mayor Trolip points to more to come. And the fact that EFF and others voted with ANC on major issues of the agenda exposes DA of what it is.
Please
the
conclude.
Representative of monopoly capital and white minority interests.
Thank
There
you.
will never be harmony of interests in a
Thank
situation
you.
where slave
Thank you, Honourable
masters
Member.
expect slaves to assist them to defend their system of slavery against a progressive Protestant movement
Thank you, Honourable Member.
that is bringing freedom to slaves. DA wants to dictate and impose
Time is
its
up.
agenda to small parties, but those who are committed to
Honourable
improve
Member.
the lives of the poor will resist that, as shown by Deputy Mayor Bobani. Viva Bobani, viva! Kuba Bobani bakube! Bada!
Honourable Kalako, Honourable Kalako, once your time has expired, just respect that. Because once you open it like that, everyone is going to do it. It's going to be a messy situation. We shouldn't do it that way at all. Honorable Minister, please reply and close the debate.
You're not the House Chair, unfortunately. Honorable members, the DTI and the DOC will issue a policy directive on compulsory specifications which will refuse certain analog television sets from being imported into the country. But also, working together with Minister Cwele, two things will happen. We will ensure that voice and data communications is not prohibitive. So as we move from here, the cost of data and the cost of voice communications must fall. Voice communications. With Minister Cwele, we will also expedite the move towards moving to honoring the deadline of December 2018. We will also bring in the Treasury to assist us with the procurement processes because we would like to be as far as possible from that process as we could be. No, I'm not going to finish now. I want to say to you, thank you very much, honorable members, members of the Portfolio Committee, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, for the inputs that we've received today. You members of the committee, for the input that you've given today. Even to those that have not supported this budget. We hope that with your interaction in Parliament with us, you will give us the support that we need. Thank you very much, DA, for supporting our budget. And also thank you very much, COPE, for supporting our budget, the IFP, and every other political party except for the EFF.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt the Minister in her conclusion. Just on a point of order, the Minister is misleading the House. The DA did not say they were supporting this budget. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, my apologies, Chairperson, but I always think then silence means consent. I'd also like to thank the people that I found in the entities and the departments for the support that they've given ever since I arrived in the department. And also thank the young, agile, and energetic Deputy Minister for her support as well. And thanking friends and family that have come to support me today. The industry players, without you, this sector will not thrive. We rely on you to support us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Deputy Ministers, all members. Thank also for our invited guests for attending this important budget vote. Thank you for your participation, all of you. Honorable Member, that then concludes the debate and the business of this mini-plenary session. The mini-plenary will now rise. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.